That sent me a pass up.
No, I was very fortunate. I was in class actually when I got the call from a weird area code I wasn't used to, and I asked the teacher to be excused. Obviously, I went outside and there was a voicemail, and it was Archie Manning, and he was calling me and asking if I would like to come down and participate, and I went back and asked the teacher if I could take 5 minutes and gave him a call back, and I was able to talk to Archie for about 5-10 minutes, and he invited me down and explained the type of schedule and what we'd be doing, and he asked if I'd be interested, and I jumped on it. I wanted to go down there and try to kind of absorb all I could, and I was able to go down and spend the last couple of days down there with a lot of great guys and learn a tremendous amount of information.
How exactly do you tell a teacher in the middle of class that Archie Manning's on the phone and you have to?
Well, I kind of said it was a little bit of an emergency. I kind of broke it like that, and then he said he'd take your time, and he was very thoughtful, the professor, so he understood, and I was able to go out for about 5 or 10 minutes, take that time, and then I got right back into class, sat in the front, and started learning again.
What was the class?
It was a communications class with Professor Line, and he was a very good professor. He was unbelievable to have, and I was fortunate for him to let me take that time to call him back.
You just, when you go down there, just a sponge, but you just kind of study almost everything those guys do, huh?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you need to do is just absorb everything, not less talk, but just listen. And it started from the minute you got down there. We got onto the field, and Peyton, those guys took us right out, and we started, and we had a workout as soon as we got down there. And the cool thing about it is that Peyton and Eli and those guys already knew where you were, where you're from, your names. I mean, they were asking about everything up here and how the end of the season went and how I'm looking forward to this season with the coaching change and what kind of offense we're going to run and everything. And then they kind of put you in drills. And Peyton was unable to work out because of his neck, obviously, but I was on the opposite side and I was able to work behind Eli Manning. And Eli Manning would go and he'd be able to do his drill, and he'd be doing different footworks and kind of analyzing why he does it and where he does it and what he was trying to get out of it and what kind of things he'd want his receivers to do, and then he'd have you go and you'd get 4 or 5 reps, and he'd sit back and he'd watch and he'd kind of critique how you were handling yourself and what he'd think. But I mean, he said that, I mean, if you got invited down there, I mean, guys down there, I mean, Andrew Luck and all those guys, we all know how to throw in that sense. It's just how do you prepare, how do you work in the off season, how do you kind of get yourself ready to handle yourself under pressure in the pocket. And it was fun. I mean, you got to learn so much while you were just on the field for that one workout. And then the cool thing is that you got to work out the little kids. They had about 1,200 little kids. So you were able to go out there and kind of give yourself information to them. It was kind of like a ladder. I mean, when you're a little kid, you're trying to play college football, and then when you're playing college football, you're trying to play the NFL. So there's just a lot of information being exchanged between people, and you're just kind of soaking everything in.
They talk about, obviously, Peyton in particular.
I would say that the craziest thing that Peyton did all week was basically he stood up and he started talking. It was basically like he said, all right, everybody pay attention, I'm about to say something important. As soon as he has that presence, as soon as he stands up and starts to vocalize, everybody just stopped what they were doing and basically just took everything in. And we were able to go into a back room with Coach Gruden, John Gruden, Mike Mayock, Peyton and Eli, and they shut the door off, and for an hour and a half we were able to go in. We were able to ask questions. They were answering questions. They were giving insight to how they handled the stuff, how they thought things out, how they prepared each week. I mean, basically a lot of information that you would think they wouldn't give to us, but I mean, that's just how the Mannings are. I mean, they wanted to see everyone succeed, see everyone do well, and I was very thankful, and to be able to talk to the other QBs on how they did stuff and how they handled themselves. I mean, it was definitely a great weekend, and you learn so much information that you can apply to now and start getting yourself ready for that season that we're going to have in a month. But it feels like I can do so much now in this month to just basically get myself ready for that.
Is there an application process to get into this camp? And if so, was this something expected? Like, were you waiting on this call?
No, I wasn't. I was shocked. I mean, Greg McElroy had done it the year before. He now plays for the Jets, and I was able to build a relationship, obviously, with him because my dad coached for Alabama, and he talked to me about it. He said I did the Manning camp, and he explained what they did down there and stuff like that. And I said that'd be an awesome experience. I wish I could do something like that. And he said that he talked to Archie. But I wasn't expecting it at all. It was kind of all of a sudden. It was abrupt, and believe me, I was not expecting to talk on the phone with Archie Manning that day.
So it's strictly invite only. Like you didn't have to apply. It's invite
No,
only.
Yes,
How
sir.
many quarterbacks were there, team?
30. 30 college guys.
Any other Big East quarterbacks?
The backup from Syracuse was down there, the lefty. So that was the other Big East guy. But I mean, they had a lot of great quarterbacks down there. I mean, guys that won a lot of games.
When John Gruden's quarterback thing on ESPN, he seems to be really tough on those guys and asking them a lot of questions. Were you able to sit down with him one-on-one and go over things with him?
No, we didn't sit down one-on-one. He sat in the room and basically made it very broad questions and answers. And the thing is, though, is that Coach Gruden, I mean, you didn't have to sit down one-on-one to basically get the answers that you wanted from him. He was able to sit down and tell you. I mean, those segments, even though they're a 30-minute time slot on ESPN, they're around 6 hours, he told us. That he wants to understand everything that's going on in a quarterback's head. He wants to understand the protection side of it. He wants to understand what kind of guy he is off the field. I mean, he really was able to go into detail with us about what they expect and what they expect their people to be like on and off the field. So, I mean, we were able to learn so much information just in that time slot, even though it was a big group.
You mentioned Andrew Luck. Was he also there?
Yes, sir, he was.
Did you get a chance to talk to him?
Oh, it was great. I mean, Andrew came up to me and he said, "Don't hold it against me, but my family just moved to Morgantown." So I told him definitely. I was just. He was a great guy. He said if he ever goes down there, he's going to shoot up here, and we're going to be able to hang out. I mean, all those guys. That's the thing that was most impressive. I mean, Kellen Moore from Boise State, he's a 40-game winner. Andrew Luck, Landry Jones, all these guys were there, and have total success and are basically superstars. I mean, but you would never expect it. I mean, they were down there. We were having a great time just being able to talk with those guys. We exchanged numbers. We exchanged Twitter names and all that other stuff to keep in contact with each other, just to keep in contact and make sure that we kept up during the season because everybody wanted to keep in contact and kind of go through the ups and downs because, I mean, when you have a great game, people understand what it feels like. When you have a bad game, you understand what that feels like. So, I mean, we were able to relate really, really well.
Who are the coaches that were down there besides, you said, Mayock and Gruden?
Well, Peyton, Eli, and then Archie were also down there. And then they had a ton of high school coaches down there from all over, some of the bigger high schools in the country. So basically a lot of guys all over the field trying to help these little kids learn.
This is Nicholls State in Louisiana, right?
Yes, sir.
What was maybe one or two specific things you really came away from the camp with that you think will help you this year in either preparation or on the field?
I would say just the way that it's study tape and how to watch tape and look at it. Peyton was basically able to go in and tell us how he looked at things and how he kind of broke it down in a general sense and to be able to make sure that we went in and kind of gave a regimen and how he keeps it the same way each week. He wants to make sure that he's on a certain schedule so that he's always understanding so that by the end of the week, one, he understands, but two, he doesn't forget what happened on Monday and what he looked at. And also how he was able to bring his guys and to make sure how they worked out in the field, how they went over routes, how they got timing down, how they were able to make sure that people were on certain routes and on certain yard lines and expect them to be there and expect where the ball was. I mean, those are two things that I really took away from the camp and understand, and now I can apply to this month and kind of get myself ready for the season.
Peyton and Eli are Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. I mean, were there things that maybe they didn't specifically say or demonstrate, but you just kind of picked up just by watching them, watching the way they carry themselves and interact?
Well, I would say that the biggest thing that you can watch is they worked out. I mean, they did it 100% all the time, every time, and they expected the ball to be a certain way. If it wasn't there, they told us that was a bad ball, even though it could be caught by the receiver. They had certain expectations of themselves, and that's what you could see is that you could see what kind of demand they had of what they expected of each play, and you could see that. I mean, it really bothered them whenever it wasn't there, and if a receiver had to reach back for a ball or something. I mean, you could see that sense, and but most of the things they were very wide open. It was very awesome. I mean, that's the thing about the Mannings is that they're first-class people, they're down-to-earth people, and they were able just to sit there and relate with you. I mean, both nights at dinner, I mean, I think I sat next to Eli for an hour and a half and just was able to talk to him, pick his brain, and basically just talk outside of football too. I mean, they're great people. I mean, it was a heck of an experience. Understanding what's expected of you on each play, what's expected of you inside the system. Peyton, the one thing he said is that basically he's a one-back system guy. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of two-back stuff. Eli has a lot of two-back stuff, and even though that these guys have totally different offenses, basically